difficulties, but I believe they've been ironed out. So now Greg and I, mostly Greg, whoops. I love technical difficulties. Great. Mostly Greg is going to rank some 3DS games from 2012 because that's what we like to do here on a Thursday night.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's big. Yes, a big year for the 3DS, isn't it? As it all starts kind of paying off all the stuff that was kind of meant to come out in this year, and the stuff that was brought forward because of the crazy panic. So yeah, we got some interesting ones to rank.
Yes. Let's start with Resident Evil Revelations.
Yes, the Revelatons. Well, what's the equivalent misspelling for like revelatory? I don't. And then why would you pronounce that? But because we played through this recently on RFN with the retroactive we did last year, I'm on a little bit firmer ground with kind of rating this than some of these. So I think I'm pretty comfortable with a 7. It's very impressive in a number of ways, kind of interesting concession to the portable format by and like what was going on with like media at the time with the kind of episodic structure and stuff, but kind of some things don't quite work all the way for it to get higher than that. Like the action parts, where it's sort of trying to be more in the RE45 mold, are not quite, on the top level. So seven's good.
Kid Icarus Uprising. So good that they shipped you extra plastic with it.
Yeah, yeah. Anytime you feel they demonstrate that they feel they have to do that, it's not a great sign. This is a tough one to rank on multiple levels. Because I've not played it recently, like I have with Revelations, but also you've got that kind of weird kind of composite of things that are very very good and then things that are more questionable. For me, the controls I did kind of get to a place where I was quite happy with them. There was a sort of in the third person shootery kind of bits, the land kind of parts that weren't just the rail shooter stuff. I did get to a place where you kind of felt like, yeah, this sort of spin the globe thing. Like I am doing quicker turns, and I feel like I'm playing more fluently, if you like, with this control scheme than I might do in a kind of ordinary third person shooter of the time. But it wasn't. There were issues even then, in the sense that it didn't make you feel like you wanted to play it for long periods of time, which obviously when you think of the rail shooter part of it, it's not an issue because those are always very compact experiences. They're not long form experiences, but because it had this second dimension of the game with the third person shooter stuff, and like an online mode and all this kind of thing, it was something that maybe you would have liked to play for longer spurts and stuff, but it just never really seemed that attainable. But aspects of it are wonderful, particularly the soundtrack. I mean, the soundtrack is really special in my opinion because, first of all, it's the whole, it's unlike a lot of video game soundtracks, certainly like Nintendo ones, because so much of the soundtrack for those on rails parts are completely sort of scripted and linear. They are not made to loop, so because they specifically score the action as it's goes progresses on that rail, like you would for a film. And because those sort of portions are bound to take 5 minutes or whatever limit they put on Pitt's flying ability in that game. Like, it's just like, all right, this is how long it's going to last. So we could just make the music exactly to each beat of the action, even have it calibrated to work with the dialogue and for jokes and stuff. Like, it's just very, very different from your ordinary video game music. But then you've got the third person stuff, which of course is freeform. So it is made to loop. And both kinds are just great at what they do. And you've got a kind of a pretty all-star cast. I forget the fifth composer because you've got Mitsuda, you've got Koshiro, and then you've got Sakuraba, and Noriyuki Iwadere, I think, is the fourth one, and the fifth one I always forget. But it's just incredible, like really, really great soundtrack. Presentation's great for a
Um,
relatively early 3DS game. I
Masafumi
mean,
Takada.
right, yeah, and so it's a quite a a lot of RPG cred amongst that,
Yeah,
whereas
well,
this
Takada
is
is mostly Danganronpa.
okay.
That's what he's most known for.
But in this case it's much more kind of for obviously there's overlap. You think of like, but certainly like one of the boss battle themes sounds very like Mitsuda's as an RPG boss battle, but like it bit more cinematic. The cinematic feel spills out. It's orchestral, or it's just so rich, so wonderful. You get the signature style of some of the composers comes through at times, especially the Sakuraba. It's kind of unmistakable. It's just so good.
Yep.
But then, yeah, there's some of the things that don't work as well. I mean, I think the on rail stuff is it's the spectacle is there, the scenario, where the way they've kind of scripted it out, and again, for what the 3DS could do and all that, it gives you that kind of the art design, like visually and all that. It's a good roller coaster ride. I think from a game design point of view, it's not necessarily like up there with like the very best in the genre, but it's pretty solid. And then the third person stuff I remember less well, but still, again, it's like there was, I think it was good, not great in that regard. So all in all, it's I think for me it's either a 7 or an 8, um, and it's tough to come down on which one. I think
Does the
I'm
do
gonna
the
be
AR cards make it a 7 or an 8?
yeah. The AR cards are the tiebreaker. What would they do? I honestly did not touch them. I don't really remember. It's a good job you pointed it out because
My favorite is the fact that people data mined that there were like 3 unreleased AR cards that were planned, and eventually, like one day, someone at Nintendo of America woke up and just remembered them for like 4 years later and tweeted them. It's like,
yeah.
print them out if you want them. Here they are.
Yeah, they are go crazy. No, yeah, it tried to, because it was, even though by the time it came out, the 3DS was what, almost a year old. It was in that early, phase where it's like we're going to do everything, we're going to use
It's
every
a little over, I
thing.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be associated with the system. But yeah, I think for me, I'll lead to the 8 because it is such a unique sort of intersection of things. But I just don't think you're really kind of gonna get again, to be honest, unless Sakurai does kind of go back to doing something non-Smash, because he hasn't really done anything non-Smash Brothers since this. It's been just non-stop Smash Brothers
Right.
since this, even though it's 10 years old
He
now.
sure
but
is. Happy
but
10th anniversary of all of these games.
you could, I think, I mean, maybe if I played it again, it wouldn't be so kind, because it wouldn't be as impressive for a portable game anymore or whatever. So I think there's definitely some risk with going with the 8 there, but I'm gonna
Yes.
go for it.
I appreciate that last week when we did 2011, we were celebrating the 10-year anniversary of those games, and now we get to do it all over again in 2012.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
how time
it's
works.
it's one of the wonderful things about this going on as long as it has. It's because it's nice to
But the
look back
timing lined up so well. Um, all right, Mario Tennis Open.
Yeah, I think this was very much one of the ones that felt like it's like, okay, let's just get this show on the road kind of thing for that summer. Something it wasn't like particularly feature rich. It didn't feel like it had all the time in the oven that it might have done, but it was solid. It played pretty well. It gave you a chance to play online in this kind of game, which was mostly pretty fun. I mean, certainly you could have some bad games. I think it was probably quite sensitive to geographic spread, which is not so bad for me over here, because it's a pretty population dense country and all that. You have got a lot of people sort of not particularly far from you to potentially get matched up with, at least in the early going anyway. But I think for other places that may have been less so. But I think probably an argument for this maybe being a 7 because it was fun, but it was quite limited. So I'll go with a 6.
Makes sense. All right. Are you ready for my lobbying regarding Spirit Camera: The Cursed Memoir?
Yeah, so again, I didn't touch this, and I only have vague recollections of
Okay.
some kind of you know
So,
things about it not working,
yes.
basically.
So it's a 3DS game on a cartridge for full price in the Fatal Frame universe. This is the first Nintendo Fatal Frame game to come out in the US and the second to come out in Europe. Um, it's an AR game where your 3DS is the spirit camera and it comes with a booklet. Now, issue 1, the booklet doesn't stay open because it's bound poorly. It's one of those like tiny little booklets where like the game tells you lay it flat, but it has a very rigid spine while being a booklet, so it
Mm.
cannot lay flat. So you have to hold things on top of it. Number 2, the 3DS cameras suck.
Yep.
So there's a lot of realign, because the way that the AR cards that are bundled in work is it is a white border and a black background inside of the white border to create big contrast to know where the border of the object is,
Yep.
and then a bright color, like yellow or red. No,
The question block thing, right?
let's just have literally black sketches on brown paper because it's meant to be, spooky.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
if you're the art designer and you're like, oh, what would a cursed book look like? It would be aged and it would have sketches and, it would not be perfectly immaculate. And I get that. The 3DS doesn't work with that. So the 3DS has a hard time focusing. And then, the creme de la creme, it doesn't work in low light.
Yeah. See
The
that
horror
was
game.
definitely that was something that crossed my mind because the little I did mess around with AR at the very beginning, it was like, okay, I need to illuminate the shit out of this to get it to work. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
yeah, anything that's kind of
Put the book right under a lamp.
Yeah, it's
Put
kind
the
of
3DS.
to
Yeah.
something that's meant to be like horror vibes. It just seems like that doesn't really
Yes.
work.
Yeah. Put the 3DS screens at max brightness to minimize reflection, as you basically stand under the glowing fucking sun with something prying this book open so that you can scan it and keep realigning so that you can see a hand come out of it.
Well, there is something sort of quite ritualistic about the specificity of all this
I'm
stuff,
just saying, your final reward is glitchy low frame rate early AR spooky imagery.
Yeah. It's kind of I could see, why someone might think horror AR could kind of go together, but not with this.
No.
Iteration.
My argument is that if any game in any of this gets a 1, I think this is the one for not fucking functioning.
Well, I'm not opposed to that, to be honest, because it is. That's really what you're talking about in the very low end is stuff that just doesn't work, and it really doesn't sound like this does,
Like,
so.
I do not understand how this got shipped. Better, I don't understand how it's $40 fucking in the US and full price in Europe.
Yeah, well, yeah. Again, I think you've got. I can only imagine it may have been one of these things if there hadn't been this, like, let's bring everything forward kind of mentality, as we'll get through with some of the other releases coming up here. That it could have been, oh, let's shelve that for a bit, and then after they shelve it for a bit, it might be. Maybe we won't, like,
Yes.
but instead it's just like, nah, everything you got, just fire it, and that's how this gets through. So yeah, I'm not, we'll go with the 1.
Okay. Yeah. Fuck Spirit Camera. All right. New Art Academy on 3DS, which is literally exactly what it says on the tin. It's a new Art Academy.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to go with the 7 for this, as
yes.
I believe we've kind of done with the other Art Academies.
This one allows for SD card export, which does make it, enticing because, hey, and it does let you take pictures with the aforementioned god-awful cameras, which are a little bit better than the DSi cameras. I think it lets you do 3D drawings as well, where you can, like, draw layers a la Flipnote Studio.
Yeah, different layers. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can make, like I say, I think probably Flipnote is where I remember
yeah.
that from, but
But
it
I
makes
think
sense.
I think this did that, and it is that more than a novelty? Not really, but it's neat that they let you do it. It's neat to add something there. Really, the Art Academy is just, hey, it's good software.
Mm.
We'll get to the most interesting Art Academy, which will come up in maybe 2 years, but Freaky Forms Deluxe, Your Creations Alive, which I believe in Europe is the first game, first Nintendo retail game to be offered through the eShop.
Right, yeah, because it was around, yeah, it was this time when they
Yes, in
started
the
having
US, the first game was New Super Mario Bros. 2, and
yeah,
I think you all got Freaky Forms Deluxe as your first downloadable.
because that's the eShop itself was a bit late, but it was like what summer of 11. But
Yes,
yeah, but packaged game cards didn't start launching on it until 12, and yeah,
yes,
so yeah, you can kind of
and
you can
that
forget that sometimes that it
yes,
was this
and I think
period of
that
time.
comes from the Vita, but there's a big push around like 2010, 2011 in from on the PlayStation 3 to try and get as many retail games to launch digitally as possible, and like that was like a lot of Sony lobbying first parties, hey, please, for the love of God, do this. um I think that at the time they're building out the Wii U, and they're forward thinking, and so they're including that, and they're like, well, we didn't build a file size restriction into downloads on this eShop like we did WiiWare and DSiWare.
Yeah.
So maybe let's just do it. And so, they retroactively come in and like Kid Icarus, Mario Tennis, Steel Diver, Nintendo, like those are on the eShop. Those get added to the eShop in like 2013, 2014, like
Yeah,
retroactively.
some of those like when they became Nintendo Selects or whatever, like
Yeah.
even a bit
Um
not the full price
yes.
version, but when they like sort of player's choice style
Yeah.
thing.
Weirdly
Because this is
Spirit
funny.
Camera never did.
This is a funny one to be the first one because it is like an extended
Yes.
thing of an eShop game.
Yes, it sure is. It's really funny, but I'm pretty sure this is Europe's first downloadable full retail Nintendo game. Full stop.
Yeah.
Well, unless you
So
count Satellaview.
yeah.
I would
So
not.
where are we? So where is this relative to regular Freaky Forms? Like how did they? I guess
So,
question.
is the appeal of Freaky Forms that that you want to create and just share these monstrosities via Street Pass? Because if that's your interest, then get fucked. There's nothing else here.
Hmm.
It's just new gameplay content, and no one was there for the gameplay in the first place. Um, the catch is, this is also the first time Nintendo did this. They delisted Freaky Forms.
Ah,
This is the
obsolescence.
yes. Now we have the true, because of course this is also before DLC, because DLC is happening in Japan around this time with Fire Emblem Awakening as the first, and then New Super Mario Bros. 2 is the first global game that Nintendo has to ever get DLC.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll get Fire Emblem Awakening in 2013 because of a localization delay. But Freaky Forms, like when Snipper Clips did this with Snipper Clips Plus, which is the closest analog Nintendo's ever had to this, of we have a downloadable game, we're gonna have a deluxe version and put it out at retail. Um, one, Snipper Clips was good, and two, um, it was just DLC to the base game, so you could upgrade. If you owned Freaky Forms, you had to drop full price to get deluxe content, and your save didn't transfer. And it was a lot more expensive. Like, in the US, it was like $13 to $40.
Yeah,
And it's equivalent.
It's a little bit like the Pokemon Rumble thing.
Yes.
Which I've already talked about as well. So where did I leave the original Freaky
You
Forms?
put it
It's
at a
kind of
5.
tricky. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. It can't be more than a 5. This one.
Although
So-
this one lets you break your hack into your 3DS.
Yeah.
They did delist this one, of course, so now you cannot get Freaky Forms on the eShop. Freaky Forms is lost to time, If you get a cartridge, though, you can absolutely hack your 3DS wide open.
Man, let's give it a 4. It's
Okay.
probably a bit harsh in some ways, but it's. I think based. I know having not played it. I mean, I guess
Yes.
you could like you say it's tough to say because it seemingly is like well, it has got more of a legit, kind of substantial kind of traditional game elements, but is that really
What
what
you're
you
looking
want?
for?
Yeah,
No.
from this is this area of comparative advantage, and but from what I understand, perhaps not.
No. All right. So we've already done New Super Mario Brothers U, which we gave an 8
Mhm.
to. But
Yeah.
before that, New Super Mario
Yes.
Brothers 2, which is the third game in the series.
Yes.
Which, it's not as bad as Bravely Second and Bravely Default 2, but it's not that far off. Um,
Oh.
which and this is also the first time we're ranking DLC with it.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, I had. So I didn't have all of them, but I had some of those packs,
They were good.
uh,
That was some of the
and
best content in the game.
it was quite fun. I felt like it that worked better with the whole like coins like
Yes.
everywhere thing. Like almost like maybe just don't have that in the regular game and just have it in the DLC. Probably would have. It just made more sense. The coin rush stuff
Yes.
just with the DLC packs, it's like no, this feels like everything works together. Whereas with the main game, it's just like well, no, this is a new Super Mario Brothers game that just has shitloads of coins in it. Like
Yes.
so.
But
But I mean, it's
yeah.
still a pretty good new Super Mario Brothers game. I don't
Yeah.
think it's as good as you, which like I said, I gave an 8. But
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't an 8, it'd be a 9 because I think it's the
Yes.
best of them.
For
With
sure.
this, I think I'm gonna go with a 7. I don't think I'd go lower than a 7, but higher equally. It can't be the same
Hmm.
on the same level as you either. So I think it has to be a 7. And yeah, the DLC did add something, but not enough to get it above 7.
Why did they bother programming a life and a game over system if 100
No,
coins still gave you
again,
a life?
yeah, it just is it's vestigial. Obviously, is the
Yes.
best explanation you could give. But yeah, it just feels like that really should have been the impetus for just like why are we still doing this? But
Yes.
they hadn't
Uh.
quite got to that point yet.
All right. We have a banger of a next three. Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask, aka the launch title.
Yeah, so launch title in Japan. Yeah, I did play this, but quite a while after it came out, and it was like at a lower price. And obviously it's a little bit more awkward than it was on DS because it's less direct now.
Because you
Where you
can't
kind
tap
of
on things.
yeah, exactly. You're tapping on the lower screen to kind of approximate on the upper screen.
Yeah, you're
where you
dragging it
want to go.
around and.
Yeah, so it's less direct, but I did think that having those, kind of environments, the depth and the sort of
Yes.
diorama-ish kind of feel was quite good. I think it made it feel more of a sort of environment than just a
Yeah.
static
It looked
image.
really good in 3D.
Yeah, so it definitely brought something to the party in that respect. In terms of like the puzzles and the
It
scenario
was
and
a
all
little
that,
gimmicky.
didn't really seem like it was one of the stronger ones. So it's kind of tough
Oh,
to
the
rank.
scenario is absolutely. It is a middle chapter because, unlike the original trilogy, where it's three games that are vaguely connected in chronology, this was actually a trilogy of main story. And then there was also a fucking movie in between
Yeah.
uh, the previous game and this one.
No, I hadn't played Spectre's Flute
Yeah.
or Call, whatever. Yeah, the different different ways referred to, which probably didn't help the story land with me.
Yeah, because if you it shows a returning villain in the opening cutscene and doesn't explain who they are, which is a bold decision.
Yeah, well, Level 5 made quite a lot of bold decisions around about this time.
Yeah, this is 2013, I think, is when they announced Yokai Watch, which means goodbye Layton.
Yeah, true. So I think it's tough. It definitely, it felt like the jump to 3DS did it some favors, even if in some ways it wasn't quite. It didn't feel quite as perfect as like the 3DS the original DS in other ways. But I think a 7 again is probably the
Okay.
overall sweet spot for this.
Did you know it got a remake in Japan?
I thought it was just a re-release. How is it a remake?
It was called Miracle Mask Plus, and it had new puzzles and I think new story content.
Wow, that's interesting.
Um. Okay. Well, Skype just crashed. I love Skype. Hi.
Hello?
Skype just crashed.
Yeah, oh, that's encouraging. So, yeah, I believe I was in the middle of
Yes.
saying that, it's with regard to the idea perhaps that they Level 5 had rushed the game for the Japanese 3DS launch, and they had
Yes.
content planned that
It-
they had not been able to include,
Yes.
and that's what precipitated the second
Yes.
edition.
For people who are aware of the Kingdom Hearts series, it was very much a final mix release, which basically means, all right, we released the Japanese version, and then we had more dev time for the Western version. So here's that content, and then also here's just a couple more small things while we're putting the finishing touches on.
Yeah. Well, I guess like with Bravely Default had the For the sequel.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, so basically it got a Japan exclusive for the sequel that was like $20 in like something stupid like 2015.
Right.
Like 3 years after the US launch. Like it was not like a soon after thing, but that was just a weird one. And then our next game, Nintendo presents New Style Boutique, which is where everything goes off the fucking rails with the naming conventions.
Yeah, that is interesting. So we've had how many in Europe at this point?
This is the second game globally. So,
right.
in Japan, this is called Girls Mode 2, because in Japan it's just called Girls Mode and then the number, because let's understand the chronology. In the US, we get subtitles. In Europe, we get Nintendo Presents Style Boutique, Nintendo Presents New Style Boutique, New Style Boutique 2, Nintendo Presents New Style Boutique 3. Which New Style Boutique 3 is the fourth game.
Nice. Yeah.
It's a clusterfuck. Anyways, so this in the US is Style Savvy Trendsetters.
Right. Yeah, well...
How much do you know about this? Because I know everything.
Yes, exactly. I'm very absolutely prepared to defer here because I know absolutely nothing about it. And for baseline, our previous score on the preceding.
You gave it.
Was it a 7? I feel
it was probably a 7. That was what 2009. I feel like you gave it a 7.
Yeah.
So this is so it's the first game on the 3DS. The last game was on the DS. Was polygonal, but it was DS polygonal, so it was very jaggy and, So on Nintendo Presents New Style Boutique, they remodeled everything. They like all the character models and specifically all the clothing models, all new. They introduced a ton of new fashion brands. This is the game that sets the tone for what Style Savvy is. The first game is interesting, and this game is very good. It like sets up the progression of of there being a story and there being like a more standard progression, and like you go through and you're building up your shop and you are there's just so much more to do, a lot more depth. Looks very good. This is the first one where you're playing it and you're just thinking in the back of your head, what the fuck, why is the soundtrack so good? This is the one that hooked me, and this is the one that made me go look up the developer and realize that it was fucking Aki in the N64 era.
Oh, the wrestling.
Yes. Yeah. Now they make wrestling games on mobile and Style Savvy. Those are the two things they made. Like, honestly, what I will say is it's probably one of the least read Iwata asks, but the Iwata asks for this game is fascinating because it is just Iwata being like, one, why were you like, what interested you in making this? Because it's not we want revenue from women. But then like two, like what goes into making this? Like talk to me about it. And it's just so interesting.
Yeah,
Um
I mean, it's, I guess, kind of, it got to a point where you kind of took those for granted a little bit. But when you go
yes.
back and read any of them, it is surprising the sort of depths that they get. You end up finding out, these sort of nuggets about oftentimes Nintendo history, but not exclusively because of how many,
Yes.
companies worked on Nintendo published games at this time, and they go back into their histories, and that's goes outside of Nintendo stuff. But it just nuggets that had not any, not that had nothing to do, but they were sort of tangentially related to the game at hand, and it's just this like font of history and interesting stuff, and then you just don't really have that anymore. It's quite
Yes.
sad.
Like I'm just linking it to you so you have it, but like the India Wada asks, like they have the different names for the different like chapters, and chapter 4 is literally for fathers and daughters. Like, oh, we are designing this game so that there's literally something for everyone, even if fashion is not something that you particularly care about. And that really, really shows in the game design. This game is really, truly excellent. It is not the best game in the Style Savvy series, but it is very excellent.
Well, it's just based on, with 7 as the baseline. I think 8 seems like a pretty
Yeah.
safe choice for this.
Alright, you know what 8 isn't a safe choice for? Unless you want to get torn apart on the internet. Paper Mario Sticker Star. I have a
I
story.
didn't play this or
Oh my
Color
god.
Splash, so yeah,
Oh my god, you haven't played Color Splash?
I haven't played Color Splash either.
Oh,
No,
oh, because they had to patch in off TV Play.
yeah, that definitely part of it. It was less like I didn't. It was similar with Sharp FE, like that.
Yeah.
It didn't have the off TV play, and then of course they did a Switch version with that, and I played through the entire game, and I like it. But of course the Color Splash, we get a different paper.
Yeah, you're never gonna get Color Splash again.
No, as a which I mean, I really liked Origami King, so I've no complaints in that respect.
We'll get to
yeah.
Color Splash, but I would call Color Splash my favorite Paper Mario.
It's I mean, the soundtrack from what I've heard to that.
Oh, the Color Splash soundtrack is the best.
Really good.
So Sticker Star, my story with this is a global launch, and I got a review copy 3 weeks before launch, and I'm very excited because I'm ready for the new Paper Mario because I've loved all 3 of them before. And I'm playing this game, and I'm like, why does this fucking suck? And I keep playing it, and I get stuck on a bunch of puzzles because the design of this game is very easy to get stuck on if you are not psychic or if you don't go to GameFAQs. This is a GameFAQs game.
There was definitely something, I think, that like a whole bunch of them reviewing, like everybody had review copies, but multiple territories just got stuck on and presumably had to confer with the people who did.
That's what I had. Well, first thing I did was I asked Nintendo for help, and they said no. They were like, no, that wouldn't be reviewing the game. And I'm like, I mean, you're right, but fuck you. And so then I guess I went and asked other reviewers, and they were like, "You got there? I haven't gotten there yet. I got stuck here." And so it's just a lot of everyone helping each other, to the point that, and this was not my proudest moment, and I will finally admit this online because we are now at the 10-year mark almost. I went to a GameStop that was embedded in my local mall, and I spent an hour talking to the manager, trying to convince them why they should sell me the strategy guide that they had in the back 2 weeks before street date.
Wow.
I'm like, you don't understand. And he's like, but it's Paper Mario. What the fuck? It's for kids. Like, how are you stuck? Like, and I'm like, I'm showing him the game, and I'm trying to make an argument. I did not win that, but I'm like trying to convince, like, he's like, but I've been recommending everyone pre-order. It's Paper Mario. It's safe. And I'm like, dude, this game sucks shit. What are you? You don't even know. And then this comes out and it's reviled, and I'm like, vindicated! Vindicated! I hate... And then, also, in 2015, I made a point that every single month, I was going to play a game that I originally walked away from not liking, and I was going to replay it and see if my opinions have softened. And for example, Final Fantasy 13 is a game that I came away liking a lot more than I did originally. Sticker Star I hated more. So this game, fuck this game.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an uncommon, view. A lot was interested in it, as you might expect. 'Cause
Yes,
I played both the original and Super Paper Mario at that point, and enjoyed them both a fair bit. So it was kind of interesting. I felt like it should be a pretty good fit aesthetically for the 3D effect, the sort of diorama
it sure should have
style
been.
and all that kind of thing. Yeah, just all the reviews I read didn't convince that this was you always feel like
Yes,
there's another Paper Mario, or indeed not that they're like truly interchangeable or anything, but a Mario Luigi not far
yes,
down the line that probably would fit my desires better. So
100%.
in terms of scoring it, it's a little bit tough with
There
that.
were are there are battles everywhere like it's a damn RPG, but there's only a penalty for engaging in battles. There's no benefit. You
Yeah,
don't get experience points. You just give up attack stickers.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a sort of scarce resource. Your ability to use stuff's all about stickers, and I mean, it's that was like the thing I like least about Origami King. Even it's just like, well, battling. Oh, it just feels like you want to avoid it as much as possible. I think the the bosses, where it's like a big set piece and it's like this,
Yes.
the whole board game type thing. Like, I think they
Oh,
were
the
really
bosses
thought
in
out.
Sticker Star are the worst part.
Oh wow! But
Because the bosses are unbeatable unless you have a specific sticker.
right.
And the game doesn't tell you until, basically, with one exception, it does not tell you until you are in the boss if you are fucked or not.
Yeah, I do believe I recall this from the coverage at the time as well. So
I have vitriol in my heart for this game. I'm sorry. Like, there are not many games that get me, like, wanting to hate a game. But, like,
I guess it's tougher when it's something that you've enjoyed in the past. And then
yes, exactly. This isn't just a, yeah, nah, that game's not very good. This is, I literally, in 2012, was calling Paper Mario my favorite franchise, and then they gave this to me.
again, I do want. I mean, some of the things, presumably, just the way the philosophy they entered the game with, or it would not have changed. But you do wonder if it did suffer from, kind of maybe just rushing it or something.
Oh no, you can go read that and want to ask which is the single most enlightening, which is Miyamoto came in and threw out the game and said start over, take out all the characters, take out all the story.
Yeah, I knew he did that, but it was actually like in the middle of making
Yes,
this game.
you can
rather
go
than
back to
at
the
outset of making
no,
the
there is footage and screenshots of this game that looks like Thousand Year Door with partners and like a Paper Mario 64 that is looks like a very traditional Paper Mario game. And Miyamoto said, "What? No, we've already made the traditional Paper Mario games, and also there's Mario and Luigi. So no, you're not that anymore. You're not RPGs."
Yeah, well, that only makes it worse in a sense because then it's like, okay, well now you've got to kind of rewrite the rule book and probably hit
Yes.
a pretty harsh deadline because it's all hands on deck for the 3DS.
Yeah, no, so this game suffered from every possible development issue, basically, like all at once. And the result is a fucking terrible game, especially because Paper Mario games come out one every 4 years exactly.
Yeah.
And you ain't getting a new one for 4 years, my friend. 2012, 2016, 2020. See you in 2024 for the next Paper Mario.
Yeah. Well, especially now that we don't have multiple systems kind of on the go at the same time, it might be longer.
Also, now that we don't have Mario and Luigi,
Yeah,
that's the big
well,
thing, is what the
yeah,
fuck... Like,
that's a good point.
Origami King, when Origami King entered development, Mario, like, Alpha Dream was still around. And now that they shipped Origami King, whatever the next game is, they have to know that they are the only Mario RPG in town.
Yeah, you wonder if that'll change their stance on what.
I hope it does.
To be, at that point, isn't it? But it's tough. I'm coming into this thinking perhaps a 5, but
Oh, no.
everything you've said seems to go lower. So
Yes.
perhaps a 4 in that case.
Okay. Yeah, that's about as high as I would ever give it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does still sound a bit on the high end from
Yes.
what you said, but yeah.
3DS eShop games. 3D Classics Kid Icarus, which was a pre-order bonus for Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yeah, I had this, and it's a pretty nice version of Kid Icarus because it does add basically adds backgrounds,
And it
you know,
fixes the bugs.
and it basically all the sort of wonky stuff. And some is just like actually like the jump physics are different. Like they're more like the jump physics in the Game Boy sequel, which gave you more control over the jump in midair and things like that, which is important, especially important in those vertical sections. Landing properly.
Yes.
It just made it a lot more playable. So I sort of messed around with Kid Icarus before, but never really seriously kind of got deep into it. With this, I played through the entire game. And it's still it is what it is. It's a bit of a odd game, sort of a bit scattershot. I think it was developed under quite like
Yes.
cramp, really quite unpleasant sort of, kind of scenario of where they were just cramming everything in like really fast. Like I think they did, they kind of did Metroid. This was maybe alongside Metroid
Yes,
for a
it
while,
was.
and then like once Metroid was finished, some more people kind of came over and helped finish this, but like really fast. And it was, in some ways, it's kind of when you hear some of that stuff, it's miraculous that it was as kind of enjoyable as it was, even its original form. But in this form, it's a bit more enjoyable.
Yep.
And they do have some backgrounds to kind of flesh it out and have there be a point to have it be 3D. A background layer that's just black is not especially great for 3D. So I think I'd give that 6 or 7. I think I'll go with a 7 just because the extra effort involved.
Okay. Dylan's Rolling Western.
Yeah, I've never played a Dylan game.
Oh, wow.
None of them. So this is a little. It's tower defense, essentially.
Yes.
Is it?
It's
Right.
a real-time character control tower defense.
Yeah. So it's I considered it over the years, trying one out, but just didn't get around to it. So is there anything guidance wise you could offer?
I mean, look, the first game is very interesting, but a bit rough. The second game is a lot more polished, and then they go dark for like 5 years, and then come back with the third game for some reason.
It's
For like
super late.
for like $40 in like 2019 or some shit.
Yeah, it was really odd, wasn't it? That. I think maybe I'll go with a 6 on this one. It's kind of the non-committal 6, but it's probably about as good a score as I've got to give it.
Okay. Speed through Putzel's Puddle, aka Through Space Ketzel's Corridor. Fuck you, Nintendo.
This is the hole in the wall.
Yes, this is hole in the wall.
I feel like I at least tried this at some point. I don't know, was there a demo maybe?
No, I don't. There was a demo of Through Space,
Yeah,
but there was not a demo of the 3DS game, which
So
did
that's
involve stereoscopy.
Yeah, well, yeah, good fit in that sense. But yeah, so it seemed like it made a certain amount of sense, but I don't know whether it entirely kind of convinced as something I would really put time into. So, I'm thinking maybe another 6 for that.
Okay. Sakura Samurai, Art of the Sword, which is Punch Out.
Yeah, I didn't get around to this. I heard good things. I think Neil liked this.
Yeah, it is a less racist Punch Out.
Yeah, well, it's not. We've talked to on RFM. We advocate for having DK beat everything in the in the jungle or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
But instead of the nationalist stuff, it's anything that can get you away from that would be nice because it might mean that gameplay actually has some sort of future.
Yes.
Being a sort of relic. But no, I don't. It's just one of those things where it leaves your brain. I had not thought about this in goodness knows how long. But then when you say the name, it comes back a bit.
Yes.
The sort of positive, kind of impression. So, I'm I think I'd probably lean it towards a 7 based on what I
Okay.
can
Yeah, that
recall.
sounds right. All right, get a load of this shit. Pokemon Dream Radar is a $15 Face Raiders game
We
where
thought of that.
where the whole purpose is that you can transfer Pokemon that you shoot at into Black 2 and White 2 on the DS. That's it. If you don't own Black 2 and White 2, no purpose to owning it at all.
Right,
And
I
it's
think a
50.
3. I think a 3 for that.
Yeah. Sparkle Snapshots 3D, also developed by Atlas, the sequel to your 2 out of 10 Sparkle Snapshots DSiWare.
Well, maybe I don't. I mean,
It's another fucking take a photo booth and put sprinkles over it.
yeah, we can have the 2 again, I guess.
Pokedex 3D Pro, which is, oh shit, we released a Pokedex for free last year. Let's delist that and put it back up for $20, I think. For $20.
Yeah, that might be. Maybe we'll go with a 3 on that.
Okay,
Might be a little generous.
yeah, I'm just saying, end of the year here, they really didn't try that hard on 3DS eShop. Like,
No.
people talk about, like, early Nintendo with the 3DS eShop because they have, like, Dylan's Speed Through, I guess, and Sakura Samurai all came out back to back to back. Like, that was, like, all within, like, a 12-week span, I think?
Right.
But then the other games or apps are just, what are you doing? Fall Blocks, which is Crash Mo.
Yeah. Did I have this one or not?
This is
I'm
the
really
one that has gravity. That's the difference. Is
Yeah.
now blocks fall if they are pulled out and they don't just float.
I honestly do not. I'm not entirely sure because I definitely had the original. I definitely have multiple of these games, but
There was the free-to-play one, which will come out in a couple years.
Yeah, so it's tough to be sure.
But
It
you
really
gave
is.
the first one an 8. This one breaks my brain.
Yeah, I do remember like at
It's
some point
really hard for me.
playing further ones and thinking like, yeah, this may have gone beyond my ability to enjoy it as much now. So it's a non-committal 7 on that one.
Okay.
But probably one of the more non-committal yet.
Yes.
Because like I literally am not sure if I played it or not.
Hell
You
yeah.
can normally be sure of that, but no.
Hydro Venture Spin Cycle, aka Fluidity Spin Cycle.
Yeah, so again, it didn't seem like this had quite the warmth.
No,
like,
it's the structure of the game that people have feelings with, not
yeah,
the controls or visuals.
yeah. So I think it was still meant to be pretty good, but just I guess for people who had some attachment to the original,
Yes.
it didn't necessarily deliver as much. So
My understanding is that it is just kind of this was an example of Nintendo kind of fucking with something.
yeah,
That
I guess
like giving
they will do
edicts.
that. They will do that. They'll say, "Oh, well, we gotta mix it up for this.
Yes.
Or try something else. It might be part of some broader strategy that
Exactly.
they've got into their heads or whatever." But, so what did we say about the first Hydro Venture?
Hydro
7 for that. Or
Yeah, you give it a 7.
Yeah. So maybe we'll go with a 6 on this one.
Okay.
Could be a little bit harsh on both of them, really, but
Well,
I did play the first one a fair bit, not thoroughly, and I hadn't played this one at all, so it's
Yes.
tough.
Your average is 60606 for the year.
Well, we've got. I mean, we've got some real troughs in there.
Yeah.
So not every year that you get. So obviously, I mean,
A 1, a 2, and a couple 3s.
Yeah, just it's some of this stuff that's really just not either it's just barely a game or barely works. Or,
Yes.
So it's the kind of stuff that's easy to give low scores to
Yes.
because it's kind of
And like
not that it's objective truly.
yes,
but there's
and
there are
3
objective
4s.
elements.
Yeah, Mario Party 9, Quiz Party. I forgot about Quiz Party. So it's 4 4s. Freaky Forms Deluxe and Paper Mario Sticker Star all getting 4s. Yeah, totally makes sense that it is almost exactly 1 point above the middle. And this is the year that had beat the beat rhythm paradise in it.
No, we had some high scores as well. Like I say,
Yeah.
I mean, probably a lot of people would score Kid Icarus lower than me. But
Yeah.
it's just still, it's
Yes.
kind of
All right. Well, the Wii's dead, so now we have two platforms.
yeah.
Let's see how successful they are.
No.
Yeah. All right. Number one, Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, which we're releasing in Europe like a month late like a month after the system.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I'd already sort of because I'd played not too long before this. I played Sigma 2 on PS3, which was
Yeah.
pretty good.
And
And
3
so
everyone hated.
yeah, but then so it's like I was kind of prospectively, thinking, well, maybe 3, it could have been good, but then it's like, well, no, that's not great. And then this was the second version of it, was it? Or
Yeah,
like
this is an updated version, like less than a year later.
mm,
That is just like, hey, here's an extra side campaign and a couple bug fixes to a game that had gotten like 4 out of 10s across the board, and it got like
yeah,
3.5 out of 10 for what are you doing? Don't put
yeah,
this back out basically unchanged.
it's kind of a yeah, good money after bad type of
Yes,
scenario, I
like
guess.
it's not worse than the original, but it's later and published by Nintendo.
Yeah, so I'm thinking a 4 for that one.
Checks out. What about Sing Party? I know your favorite game is singing Call Me Maybe with the USB microphone on the Wii U with a party
Oh,
of hip teens.
yeah, well, yeah. Obviously, I was just doing that yesterday in contravention of all bounds of good sense and taste. But wouldn't have even been able to tell you that Nintendo published something
Oh,
called
this was by the developers of DJ Hero, and it was a launch title in the US.
Right, yeah. I do prefer the idea of Sing Party being like Mario Party, but just with characters from Hotel Dusk and another tiny bit.
That would be
That
such a better game.
would definitely be better.
Unfortunately, no. This is just a hold the Wii U gamepad in fucking book mode, which is that giant thing, like one-handed in book mode, while so that the karaoke lyrics can be there while you sing into a USB mic included.
I think another 4 probably for that. I mean, it's obviously it's nothing. It's
Yes.
not barely in the same.
So in the
Universe.
US, Sing Party, Ninja Gaiden 3, and Nintendo Land and Mario Brothers U were the 4 launch titles that Nintendo put out. They put out 4, and 2 of them were shit. And Nintendo Europe just buried them in January the next year.
It's depressing.
Look, it's no Funky Barn, the game that could have saved the Wii U if it had a sequel.
No, that was, I mean, legitimately, because I didn't get a Wii U straight away. I did, not because you couldn't get one.
Yeah.
but
Oh, you could
because
get one.
I was kind of hesitating, like, and looking at what was going on and just seeing if you could get a deal or whatever. But yeah, there was this period where I didn't have a Wii U, but like half the stuff you'd read about it is just that people were talking shit about Funky Barn on Miiverse or whatever. Like, that was a lot of the buzz that was out there.
Yes.
I mean, also, it obviously mostly demonstrates that there was so little buzz. But
Yes.
also, what the fuck was that about?
It's about the fact that there's a boring farm sim game that came out at launch called Funky Barn, which I had a copy of, which made me very famous on Miiverse for a day because I was able to post in that community with the "I've played this" check mark. Because they sent me a review copy.
The absolute definition of cred.
Yes. No. Basically, Miiverse wasn't moderated at launch, other than obscenities, and so there was no stay on topic rule, and so that just became the "I'm gonna shitpost" community.
There was some sort of, if I might, this could be conflating this with some other game that took on, memorific status. But there was some sort of like obsession with Willem Dafoe.
That was a Rabbids one, yes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there were
It's
2 different
so,
communities at launch that were like,
so weird.
what the fuck weirdest thing we can do. Um, honestly, people in that from that Miiverse community have to be thrilled about the new Spider-Man movie that has him back. Um, all right, Lego City Undercover. Let's wait 3.5 minutes to load, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. I did. I did. So obviously it's available on other things these days.
Now,
But
yes,
I did play this on Wii U for a retroactive some years after it was
yes.
new. So yeah, the load time certainly did stick out. I mean,
This is
not really.
before they patched the operating system to not take 3 minutes to boot.
Yeah, I mean
Did you
that
get
could.
it before they patched it?
I'm really struggling to remember that, to be honest, because it
Okay.
wasn't like a big gap, but I feel like there were definitely some
They
significant
literally held
updates.
a part of a Nintendo Direct dedicated to we're gonna fix the operating system in two parts.
Yes,
There's gonna be
the whole like
two.
the
Yes,
quick start thing with the on the Wii where you like
yes.
on the
We
gamepad you
know that
could
the
pick.
operating system came in nuclear hot, so hot that we sent out review units and told outlets you can't show the operating system. And then
Oh,
Giant Bomb didn't do that. They opened up the instruction manual that had screenshots of it and took pictures of it.
wow. It was, I mean, oh god, it was just, I mean, I guess a lot of it, I mean, all launches are rushed, but I guess this one just seems like it was ridiculously rushed because they
Yes.
just totally got caught with their pants down at the bottom falling out of the Wii market, so
And
much
they
faster.
announced this thing in 2011, didn't they? They announced this
Yeah,
thing in 2011 as they were promoting Skyward Sword. They're like, already we have the next system. And then it all, like, not only did they announce it when they had nothing, they also fucking had to wait a year and a half to put it out on the market, and then it was rushed.
yeah, it was rough, and that's why it's a. I guess it was like it's a really extended like dry run for the for the
Yes.
Switch in a way.
Good lord. Also, they hadn't, like, every single time they delayed a game, like 2013's games are all so delayed, and every single time you'd hear things like, yeah, they just didn't know how to work on shaders in HD. Like
Yeah,
they just
yeah,
didn't consider for a second that HD development would be that much harder.
they hadn't done it,
And I'm
and yeah,
like, you have so many business partners.
yeah, it's true. You do collaborate
Like,
with a lot of people
how
that
it,
dip their
yes,
toes in that
how
field.
in the
Like,
Wii generation, as you're talking to Koei Tecmo, did someone from Koei Tecmo not say, "Oh, good, we don't have to do this in HD"? Like, how did that never come up? That HD was harder. Anyways, Lego City
yeah,
Undercover, not developed
I
by them, developed by someone who had already worked on HD games.
very much so. Yeah, for me, this was I really, I think maybe just like dabbled in a subset, but it's the first like Lego game I properly played.
Yes.
And I don't necessarily play that many open world games either. So in some ways, I guess that might flatter it a little bit because like, is it good for a Lego game? Is it good for an open world
It
game?
is good
I'm
for a
not.
Lego game and not that good for an open world game.
Yeah, see, I'm not the best situated to say, but my overall, it's quite funny, and it's got sort of some. I think for people who actually like Lego rather than like Lego based on Star Wars or all these other IP. Like it's actually got references to Lego sets, right? Like
Yes.
the whole Lego City stuff. So it's kind of, even though I wasn't really a Lego person myself as a child, like I knew people who had like quite fancy Lego things, and it kind of seemed like cool, but I never particularly wanted it myself. If you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you kind of appreciate it, but you're not like, oh, I must have it either. But still, I think a 7 for that.
Okay. What about Game and Wario?
Yeah, I didn't get this
Uh huh.
until they did basically gave games away. There was a
Yes.
time in Europe, and I imagine there was a similar promotion elsewhere,
Similar.
where they was basically like, hey, you buy this, you get to have, I don't know whether it was Pikmin 3 or something. I forget. It was a game
They
that you
kept doing
bought
this,
it.
yes.
you would essentially then have the ability to redeem it for another game. And I think it came down to, because some of them already had, some of them,
Yeah.
I didn't want at all. It came down to this or Sonic Lost World. And I went with this just because I thought,
Safe
wow,
choice.
it's another multiplayer sort of game. I had Nintendo Land because I got the version of the
Yep.
Wii U that had Nintendo Land with it, and obviously this is covering some of the same ground. But I thought I do like WarioWare. I've some of the stuff I've read suggests that this is kind of quite fun, and especially the gamer mode looked fun, even if it is
Yeah.
just kind of like very
The problem with
like.
Game and Wario is it was expensive.
Yeah, exactly. And I was getting it for nothing apart from the opportunity cost of Sonic Lost World.
You're
And
fine.
on that basis, I quite liked it. I mean, it
Yes.
is pretty thin. Not all the different aspects are like particularly enthralling, but you've got, a bit of old school WarioWare with this amusing, like, kind of conceit layered on
Yep.
top of it with the Ringu style
Yes.
bomb coming out of and all that stuff. And then some of the other games work quite well. I think the one that had the most purchase play multiplayer was Franks, where
Yes.
you kind of like launch them and it's like the structure is like tipping and all that, like
Hmm.
the physics on that was all. It was pretty fun. I think a six. You could probably between a 6 or 7, but I'll go with a
Yeah.
six
It
over
was.
for me.
It was expensive. I was surprised by how like how uh the puzzle game, like the patchwork game,
Mm.
like there were like 1,000 puzzles in that thing.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
that was
what
it
the
was kind of
heck?
weird.
I'm like, I get it. I like doing this. Like, this is fun. One, this does not require it's on the Wii U at all. It does not take advantage of the Wii U, other than the fact that it could take control, like take advantage of any mouse or touch input device.
Yeah.
And then also, holy shit, some of these are so thin, and this one you just went all in on, huh?
Yeah, you feel like did they just have those like made for something else or
I
something? Like
mean,
were they?
half of the game were original just Wii U tech demos. Like there's the draw a line one from E3, there's the dance one from E3, there's like E3
Shit
2011.
loads.
Yeah, yeah. There's like almost every single Wii U tech demo either got repurposed into a Nintendo Land minigame or repurposed into Game and Wario.
Man.
Pikmin 3, and if you're following along, as a reminder, I label these in chronological order. Pikmin 3 released in August. It was a bad year.
Yeah, yeah, we've gone 8 months to this point, and that's what we've had. And like I said, some of those were held over.
Yes.
So from the previous year elsewhere in the world. So yeah, it was slow on Wii U anyway. So in 13. So Pikmin 3 pretty much delivered on every. It's been a long time coming, but it delivered on pretty much everything that I'd been hoping for
Hmm.
with a Pikmin follow up in terms of we got it's taken advantage of HD graphics, which it's one of the Nintendo series that seem more like positioned to do that. It was taking advantage of the Wii remote. It also did take advantage of the gamepad at the same time.
Hmm.
Even it's sort of is a difficult thing to do, but it actually did that. Those kind of multitasking with the different sort of commanders in your party. I like the kind of middle ground of the juice, the fruit juice, be like, okay, well, you haven't got a hard day limit, but there is a sense of urgency in that you kind of need to earn how many days you've got left by
Yes.
getting more fruit. I felt that worked quite well. I felt that, it didn't have the kind of bloat of the procedurally generated underground stuff, but it was still sizable enough, compared to say like the original Pikmin. And the bosses were wonderful kind of encounters that were, obviously big, impressive like creatures, but then it's the more so it felt like they had more kind of classical video game boss.
Hmm.
Designs to them, and say the first Pikmin, which was more kind of straightforward. So the very not a lot, not many nits to pick with this, but I'll still give it a 9. I don't know
Okay.
whether I'd quite go to the 10.
The Wonderful 101.
I like this. It's it's a weird game. It took me a while anyway to kind of fully kind of get to grips with it in terms of how much it is more like the sort of Platinum's character action games than I thought it was at first. If you follow me, like because obviously the whole thing of like having all these little characters and all that, it might superficially seem a bit like Pikmin, but I mean ultimately is, you are kind of uh, it is a sort of melee combat kind of game, but you kind of using these different forms essentially, which is, I guess, if you were drawing them on the gamepad, I guess it's almost harkening back to Okami in that sense, in terms of
Sort of.
but
Almost,
it
almost more Okami Den because I had touchscreen support.
Yeah, good point. But the what I did, what worked best for me was using the right analog stick most of the time. Just for this kind of game, it just felt more natural to use that to kind of go from the fist to the sword and so on. But when I got into it, I really quite liked it, and it does, even though with it having the kind of aesthetic that it does, the kind of toy-like Saturday morning, like toys of a Saturday morning cartoon kind of aesthetic that it has, and that more kind of top-down perspective, it doesn't lend itself to spectacle the way that a lot of Platinum stuff do. But it does end up going places which are pretty like, okay, yeah, this is the Platinum madness kind of coming out here. So, and some pretty memorable bosses and stuff. So I'd go with a 7 on that.
Okay. New Super Luigi U, because we are in the year of Luigi, even though we are so late into the year already.
Yeah, still was, and I really really like this. Really really liked it. Of course, I very much liked New Super Mario Bros. U already, and then this it kind of remixes things to just make everything a bit faster. I mean, so I think
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I mean, this was still for 4-player multiplayer, but the level design paradigm New Super Mario Bros. Did feel quite kind of spaced out because it's accommodating the 4-player potential with
Mm-hmm.
New Super Mario Brothers Wii and U. With this though, it's a bit of a different take because everything is shorter, and you got the 100-second kind of time limit on
Quote
it.
unquote seconds.
Yes, true. It's the 100 count or
Ticks,
whatever
yeah.
that actually is. Yeah, everything felt a bit tighter, a bit more. Some of it's just psychological, I think, but it's got a bit tighter, a bit more urgent, a bit trickier. Luigi's like physics sort of give you the opportunity to do some more crazy kind of jumps and stuff, but equally, maybe there's a little bit more danger with him being a bit slipperier. I really really liked it. I would go to a 9 for this.
Awesome. Um, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker HD.
Yeah, this one again. This really is. I've said before, I'm not unambiguous about the visuals because I feel like it does take on quite a different character from its original guys.
Yep.
With these kind of lighting effects and the bumping resolution, but it is still, in its own terms, gorgeous. And I mean, there's sometimes when you set out on the sea, and it just gives this real, like the way the lighting is now, and especially probably like with the television, like running through HDMI and HD and everything, like it's so bright, like it really gives this feeling of, this sort of almost oppressive brightness of the sea. It's kind of like it is beautiful, but at the same time, it's kind of like intimidating. Like, and I think that's almost perfect because the Wind Waker is the prettiest apocalypse ever. Like it is,
Yes.
it is gorgeous, but at the same time, there is something kind of underneath that which is horrible, which is the world that was there is gone, and in its place is just this almost seemingly, kind of boundless ocean. So, I felt like the visual over what they did with the lighting and the visual overall in that sense, it actually really worked with the material. And then there's the quality of life stuff, the
Yep.
swift sail, and just like the streamlining of equipping the sail to your boat and everything.
And then
Like,
the back third of the game actually being reasonable.
yeah, further kind of the American version trimmed some of the bullshit out of the Triforce thing,
Yes.
but because it was worse in Japan when it launched in '02. But yeah, this trimmed it back further. Obviously, it could never like make up entirely for Wind Waker being rushed originally. With like, oh, here's the dungeons they surely would have put in, but didn't because they didn't have time, or
Mm-hmm.
some of these other things. But it does make up for quite a lot with the swift sail, the other quality of life, using the gamepad to manage your inventory, and the some of the controls and stuff. Like it was all really really good. I think this definitely bumps the original from an 8, which I had it at, to a 9, because it is, yes, it's still kind of short, kind of easy, but it's a fantastic way to play a very memorable and beautiful Zelda game. And also, I think, relative to something like Ocarina 3D, I give it props for the fact that the music was oh so exquisitely subtly better. It was very difficult offhand, like for me anyway, to be entirely sure that they had improved it. But when you put them side by side, they have.
Yep.
So it's like it's the instrument quality, which was okay on GameCube, but especially in retrospect, is not that rich. They've bumped it up, but in such a way that you could almost believe it was like that originally. And so it's not going to upset people. And I think that was just beautifully balanced. So yeah, a 9 for that.
Wii Party U, a game that was not available digitally
That's weird.
because it
Uh,
came with a piece of plastic.
yeah, well, you couldn't have that.
Yeah,
It did through each other.
it came with a horizontal stand for the gamepad. No, that's not a joke.
Yeah, no. This is coming back to me a little bit. Of course, I never did play it, but yeah. So I mean, the original Wii Party was all right, wasn't it? Even
Yeah,
it's a pretty decent game.
this is a game that sold like absolute trash, but people who played it really liked it.
And I mean, the Wii Remote Wii Remote, the gamepad should have been like great for
Yeah.
these kinds of games.
For sure, there's a lot of off TV centric interactions of just like, hey, just set this like basically like what they showed people doing with the Switch in trailers of like basically set this down flat on a table and then like I'll take one side, you take the other, and we'll play locally. Or like one example was like foosball, of just like just knocking around, or like miniature baseball. But then there's also a bunch of like more weird shit with Wii remotes. Like the one that they highlighted was, all right, there's going to be three of you. We'll set up the gamepad and two Wii remotes, and we're gonna say, player two, hold down the A button on Wii Remote 1. All right, now also hold down the ZR button on the gamepad. Now hold down this, and then you get Twister with hands and like. I don't know why they keep coming back to that kind of shit, but like, yeah, it is interesting. It's very interesting. It's very overlooked, and I'm not gonna say it's worth going back to the Wii U to look at, but it was overlooked.
Oh well, it was certainly easy for things to be overlooked on.
Oh, I
Wii
mean,
U.
even among Wii U customers, yes.
Yeah, so I'm thinking between a 6 and a 7 for this. Any
I would
lead-ins?
say a 7.0 as like a lowest 7 feels right.
Yeah, we'll go with that then.
Wii Fit U, which came in so many confusing distribution methods. It was like, all right, so it's free digitally, and if I get this pedometer that's not out yet, and I scan it into the gamepad, then I own the game. Or I could buy it digitally, which is $20, or I could buy the pedometer and a disc, but if I'm getting the pedometer, why am I getting the disc? Like,
I didn't know it was this.
yes. Or you could get balance board plus, because balance board is required, of course. They just sold so many options that didn't have it because they just assumed almost everyone that wanted this thing had a balance board, and they were right.
There were many of them out there
Yes.
at that point.
So it was like balance board plus Goodwill couldn't disinfect them fast enough. Balance board plus pedometer plus disc copy of game, and again, might I reiterate, why is there a disc copy of the game and a pedometer if the pedometer is all you need? The answer is because they were hoping that this game would move units
Yeah.
to people who were not comfortable going to the eShop and downloading a free app.
Yeah, I guess it was still early days in that sense, but still, yeah, it goes to show the difference in the mindset, I guess, at that time, of what they perceive, what they perceive the mindset of customers to be. So yeah, I seem to remember some positive kind of
Yeah.
reception to some of the things they added to this back then. But again, having never used any of the Wii Fit sort of iterations, I'm not really the one to say.
James gave it James gave it a 10 because this was the one that helped him actually get into shape.
Right, right.
Like yeah, Wii Fit U is fucking weird because like it is the best Wii Fit. It is the best execution on this concept that I've ever seen. It is what you think it is.
I think yeah, maybe we'll go with the 8 on that.
Okay.
Like I said, it's tough for me.
Yeah.
It's all going to be a bit non-committal, but seems about right for
Yes.
my money.
Just what a clusterfuck of ways to release.
That's it. That is. I knew like some of that, but and I guess you kind of felt like the fact that there's all these balance boards already out there kind of would lead to some. But yeah,
Yes.
the sort of almost double purchase thing is kind of.
Yeah, no. Here's my favorite is when they sent out review copies of this game, which I got. They sent out a download code for the full version and a pedometer, so you could do the new pedometer functions. And if you put the pedometer into the trial version, you had 2 copies of this game on your Wii U that did not share save data. You had Wii Fit U and Wii Fit U open parentheses trial version close parentheses, because if you upgraded the trial, it still said trial on the home screen because they couldn't update the app like that. Because the name of the application couldn't be adjusted by a variable. So fuck you. You lose.
Set in stone.
Yes. What a weird curse. So yes, I own 2 copies of Wii Fit U apparently. Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games.
Yeah. Other than the what I reviewed for DS WR back in the day, I've never gone back to Mario and Sonic. Oh, I always thought maybe if I were, it might be to a winter one.
Yeah, but this one was received as the worst of the series.
Yeah, that's the thing. So it's a shame, but they didn't tempt me at the time based on reviews and all that. Even though they weren't exactly drowning in stuff for Wii U. So had it been received a little better, I might have been more apt to give it a go then than like at other times with other iterations or whatever.
Yes.
But I'm thinking maybe a 5 for that.
That checks out. By the way, shout out to Nintendo signing one of the worst deals in history. A deal where they paid a bunch of money for 3 exclusive Sonic games. And the 3 that they got were Lost World,
yes,
Mario and Sonic, which for some fucking reason counted, despite it being a Mario game. It was never going to come to any other platforms, you dumbass.
Some sort of flim-flam there.
And
sure.
Yes. And then Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. The 3 games that they got, one of them was received as mediocre, one of them shouldn't have been part of the deal, and one of them was destroyed by virtue of it having to come to the Wii U.
That's the one that's just a technical... Omnishambles or whatever.
Because the Wii U can't run that engine, because that game was never designed for the Wii U. But then it got shoved onto the Wii U at the last minute and destroyed it.
Beautiful.
Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was pretty damn good as a sequel to a game I really, really liked. I didn't play. I played, a little dabbled with it in multiplayer at the time, but not a great deal. I actually played more with the recent re-release online. I actually tried that a bit as well, and it was pretty fun. But just as a single player game for the most part, I absolutely loved it. Again, just the 3D land, was this kind of take on 3D Mario that I really liked. It felt like it really delivered on the promise of a kind of more orthodox take on the Mario side-scrolling formula adapted into 3D. But this really took that approach, having them sort of kind of honed it on 3DS. Now they could do it really, really well
Yep.
on Wii U, and it's pretty fantastic. Definitely, just the length of the game and the sort of the amount of ideas in it and stuff just feels more fully fleshed out than it did on 3DS. Obviously, graphically there's an improvement. There's something lost, without the 3D effects. I did like that, and I did think it even did help somewhat, a little bit with the gameplay. But it also proved that you didn't need it either.
Exactly.
Like you could play some incredibly demanding 3D platform levels and still do it. So pretty fantastic. It's not quite a 10, but a 9 for that, I think.
And then this was a Wii U launch title in the US that they published in Europe for some reason. Scribblenauts Unlimited.
Yeah, it's another Scribblenauts. I never quite got. I think obviously got a load of buzz the first Scribblenauts. Because just the concept is kind of so interesting to see how well it kind of holds up or whatever. Two people just throwing whatever stupid shit they could come up with at it. I guess at this point it's kind of a bit passe,
Sure is.
So
no one cared.
I don't think, it didn't exactly move the needle at all. I don't know how great it is relative to other Scribblenauts games.
It's fine.
So probably a 5 on that.
Okay. 5 Wii U eShop games. 1, The Best Art Academy, which was the one that they made as fast as humanly possible. Art Academy Sketchpad, which was literally, they said this in a direct, we're making an Art Academy game, but we're not going to wait for it to release because y'all are going wild on Miiverse. So we're going to release a cut down version for like $8 that is just like the core drawing tools that we know are done, and we'll release the full Art Academy later. But like,
look, we've seen what you've been doing on Miiverse, and frankly, we don't think it does Mr. Defoe's likeness justice. So please buy this and get better.
So, it's like this. This one had no tutorials. This one was not about teaching how to draw better. This was just, oh fuck, people love drawing on the Wii U. We gotta help them with that. And so they put this thing out really fast turnaround. Like, within, I think, 6 months of the system launching, this thing was out. And this was a reaction game.
Yeah.
But,
So one of the things that was actually kind of, again, it's all relative, but like that was a lot of the buzz.
Yes,
the buzz
they were like,
was about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, they were like, oh shit, there's something people like about the Wii U. Drop everything and amplify it.
It's sad but true, isn't it? Yeah, so no, I mean, I didn't have it. I did a little bit of drawing on Wii. I can't draw for shit, but
yeah.
I did some drawing on Wii U, just inspired by, there was a fair amount of it out there. So what do you think? Maybe I'm thinking a 7 or an 8 for this.
7 works, I think.
Okay, we'll go with the 7.
All right. How much do you know off the top of your head about Pokemon Rumble U?
Not a lot. Again, I mean, at this point, I guess I just kind of grown to tune out Pokemon Rumble a little bit, okay, this is something that's just going to keep coming back, but, it's not really, my thing,
So I sent you an image, and I'm putting it on the stream now. I want you to tell me what this is. I want you to take a guess.
Alright, so we've got some, actual capsule toys of the low poly takes on the Pokemon characters. A few of them, anyway.
Yeah, a few.
Yes, and so I assume you bought these and they went through the NFC.
These are absolutely the first NFC compatible items on the Wii U. These are...
You know what's really annoying is like how much I had to like bend my brain to say NFC.
Yes. Oh god. I know. No, so this is, yeah, this is a $15 or $20 game that sure as shit is just another Pokemon Rumble, but this time they wanted you to go to your local GameStop, because I think they were GameStop exclusive, and buy blind bag amiibo
Yeah, well,
that
I mean, look, it's
that
one of these
felt like
things
they were
where
3D printed. The quality was super low.
yeah, it's one of these things where it's like, I could see there's a more relatively sort of decent case for like the synchronicity of like a toys to life situation here because the low poly nature of them in previous games is just, oh, these are toys, these are crude models of Pokemon, not like the Pokemon as
Yes.
we know them. So it's like it kind of it seems like a relatively decent fit if you're going to try this kind of idea, but still, yeah, they don't look even as good as physical representations of those designs could have looked.
No, they looked like shit. I think they were like $10 a fucking blind bag or some high end garbage like that. Like, these things are trash. And that's, and again, this isn't a free to play game with that is like amiibo supported. And of course, the amiibo branding didn't exist yet. But like, that
No,
isn't
so
NFC supported. But no, no, no. This is a premium product that you can get an advantage by literally going to the store and gambling.
yeah, three.
Fuck this game. We Karaoke You by Joy Sound, which
By
did come
Joy
out
Sound.
in Europe.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's another one of those accursed, we blank you,
Is
which
this is the Switch Karaoke Joy Sound app out in Europe? Or is that I think it's just Japan.
perhaps so. Yeah, we could make sense. I have no idea the
Um
affinity for singing
Joy
myself.
Sound Karaoke is good. It has it has you just you pay for the amount of time you want on the app, so there's like a free download, and you say I want to sing for an hour because I have friends
Right.
over and we want to do that, and like
Makes sense.
great, have access to every song that we could possibly license.
Yeah, that sounds like the right kind of model, and
Yeah.
sort of overlaps with the Wii Sports Club, which we're about to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, so like, it's not my thing at all. It's difficult to know how to go. I'm thinking maybe a six.
It is by far the better version of Sing Party, which is we licensed 20 songs and put them on a disc. This is just like, nah, you don't want to sing fucking Bohemian Rhapsody every day. You want to get wasted before you try that.
Yeah, it sounds pretty exhausting. I gotta
Yeah.
say, like
Um,
when Bart tricks them into singing in a God of Davida or whatever
yes.
in The Simpsons.
Um,
Just all there like dishevelled, trying to hold on the
yes.
candles.
All right. Wii Sports Club, which the I know this thing came out in a lot of weird ways. This is just the entirety of Wii Sports Club.
Yeah, so you could like buy individual sports, you could buy passes, like we said with the
Yes.
karaoke. So you could actually
So
kind of just like, oh well, I'm having friends over,
I want
for
all the sports,
yeah for a
or
limited time, or yeah. And I mean, they get obviously this was something that they again I think featured in like early kind of
early,
marketing
yes.
early marketing where it's like with the golf thing of like, oh, you'll set the gamepad on the floor and it'll show the lie of the
Yeah,
ball.
this
So
is where the last of those tech demos ended up. I
kind of
said most
shows
of
that.
them were Nintendo Land and Game and Wario.
And of course, you were talking about again, like it's after Wii Motion Plus. You had Wii Sports Resort and Wii Motion Plus, and now it's like, okay, well now we assume everybody's got the Wii Remote Plus is
Yes.
at standard, so all the sports are kind of based around having those and stuff. So I mean, it was a pretty decent vehicle for enjoying those again. Obviously because the system didn't reach the mainstream, relevancy, I doubt this game ever really did
I'm really
get
surprised that they just didn't also bundle in a code for this or something with the system. Like they
yeah,
never
that
bundled this. I
it does. I know Nintendo Land is more like,
Yes.
oh, but this is like stuff you could never do on the
Do I
Wii.
think
Where,
that it would have changed anything? No. Would I expect them to flail and try? Yes.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I think I'll probably it's either a 6 or a 7. I think I'll go with a 6, but
Okay.
you might be able to make the argument for a 7.
And then in December, we have NES Remix, which is the first time we're seeing it, but it's all the bad games you don't want.
Yeah, so that's it. I didn't play the first time I played NES Remix was the 3DS game.
Oh my lord. Okay, so real quick overview, and we'll talk about this, of course, probably next week when we get to the 3DS game. Um, there's NES Remix, which has a bunch of games, including like 3 or 4 big hitters like Zelda and Mario ones.
Yeah, a lot of the black box
Yes,
games.
but then a lot of like Clue Land, Pinball, Urban Champion. Like here's like all the shit that you're buying because NES Remix is a novelty. And then like 4 fucking months later they've released NES Remix 2 with all the ones you did want.
Yeah, I mean,
Um
I see it makes more sense in the context of like this was the same year that Nintendo were doing the 30th anniversary stuff for because it was the 30th anniversary of the Famicom, and they
yes.
had when they got it took a while, but yeah, they launched a virtual console
Eventually.
service, and yeah, you had like a game a month that was like 30
Oh yeah, but no, that was
10
before they literally launched virtual console games before the virtual console.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Before there was actually a proper service, you had the 30 cents like games.
Yes, and it was like, here's Super Metroid for 30 cents. Why? Fuck you. Just buy a Wii U, please.
Yes.
Um,
So, but I guess like because it was like those games, a lot of the games in this first NES remix were games that would have been around in '83, right?
yes,
So
it sure was.
it
So,
kind of makes sense in the Japanese context of okay, yeah, these
yeah.
are the games that are 30 years old. These are the games that the Famicom sort of first started to gain
But
prominence.
then, it, as a Wii U disc, which I did not include in these rankings, they put out NES Remix 1 plus 2, which was just a combination of the two. And then on 3DS, they put out Ultimate NES Remix. And now, how, you might ask, is Ultimate NES Remix more than what they did on Wii U? They didn't add anything, they took shit out.
That's right.
That's
It's
the change between Ultimate and the Wii U versions was, nah, you don't want to fucking play pinball on the NES.
right. That's true.
And it's like, what the fuck, dude?
Addition by subtraction.
You did in fact make it better, but at what, like, at what acknowledgement of your past failures?
My main memory of this, and probably why I didn't jump on it, was just that everyone's reaction was like, "Oh yeah, this is a cool idea, and it's quite, it's somewhat fun. But wouldn't it be more fun if it were, other NES games, or maybe Super NES games, or
Oh, they would never. They could never do Super Nintendo. It's always got to be NES for the end of time.
just again, the 30th anniversary thing kind of sealed that anyway. But just at
Yes.
least NES games that people know and love more so, and to this day are more fun.
Yes,
that was
and so NES Remix 2 will come out in 2014. But for now, how would you rank NES Remix 1?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something you rank a little bit more lowly than in the
Yes.
context of what comes afterwards, because it just feels like, well, couldn't we have started there? But so I think a 5.
Okay.
Having played the 3DS one, I do quite like the formula, but it just seems like the going that way to. You could certainly read it as just essentially getting people to like pay twice in a way. 'Cause
Yes.
It's like, oh, I like the sound of that, and then you buy it, and then you're like, I would like that with better games. Oh, and now they're there, and then you paid for it twice. Like it does feel
Exactly.
like that's what I'm going for.
All right. I just realized by looking at the rest of the games, I forgot Mario and Donkey Kong when I was numbering all the releases. So now I'm gonna have to go back and say that everyone's incremented 1 because there's more of these fucking things than I remembered. Anyways, we'll get to that. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate for the 3DS, and I want to be clear. This game came out to Wii U at the same time. Nintendo of Europe did not publish that.
Right.
Nintendo of Europe did not support the Wii U by publishing Capcom's game. Like, nah, Capcom, you can figure out the Wii U version yourself. That's not the one that matters. We only want
Yeah.
it on 3DS. What the fuck, Nintendo?
That's just. I mean, it's sort of like realistic. I don't know.
Yeah, but that was also like January.
You wouldn't have thought you'd already
Given
ruled
up.
out on
It's
that
been
front.
out for like 1 month. Alright, here we go.
Yeah, I did get around to Monster Hunter on the 3DS until it was. Oh, I've talked about this with other stuff, other series, where it's like, oh yeah, well that looks good. I probably, but isn't there going to be another one and then another one and then another one? And then it was like generations until I actually got a 3DS Monster Hunter. And I did really, really enjoy that. I put a great deal of time into it, so I don't regret anything. But yeah, I did not play this or indeed Monster Hunter 4. But I obviously played Monster Hunter Try, so I got some experience with it. But my leanings would be an 8. Is there anything about the way it was handled in the
No,
Ultimate version that would, kind of, detract from that?
nope. That sounds right. Um, Luigi's Mansion 2, which is
Yeah,
Dark Moon in the US.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so those Dark Moon elsewhere. I'm not sure why they had to like why they split on that in particular, but it was nice for Luigi's Mansion to come back. It's a good fit with stereoscopic 3D. The way those obviously the game apparently was originally designed like with some thought for like 3D display in mind, wasn't it, on GameCube? So I guess it
Sure
was
was.
that it always was the kind of a natural fit. Obviously, this is next level. Try to expand, the sort of how substantial the game could be from that first game, which obviously was quite compact to say the least. Even though it was a little bit drawn out, even though it was short. Like the first one, there's a little bit of stuff that's like kind of filler in that. But here it's like, oh, we can have multiple mansions, and you can have this kind of mission structure, which it sounds like it's a concession for portable play, but actually made it less suitable, in my opinion, because you just had this
Yeah.
that went on a long time. It didn't, other than just the fact that 3DS, whatever you're playing, you could just shut the thing up and come back to it. Really just, yeah, it seemed like, at some point in the when you sort of designing the game, that sounds like a good fit for portable play. But then the way it actually took shape wasn't that suited to it anyway. I suppose it didn't necessarily like there was a lot of like repetition with the enemies and stuff. It didn't necessarily have so many unique enemies as the original did, even though it was a longer game and kind of this whole thing about like collecting all sorts of different gems when I think it's a bit like the Mario Sunshine problem with like blue
Hmm.
coins. So it's like each mission was like a different
Yes, it
instance
sure
of that
was.
mansion and stuff. So there was some bits to pick, but there was a lot of good there as well in terms of adapting that model and the Luigi's Mansion kind of model and putting it into 3D and making it a more substantial game. So I'll go with a 7.
Okay.
Quite a lot to like, but they weren't quite there yet. Luigi's Mansion 3, they get a few things ironed out.
Yes. Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah, I had this one. Obviously, it kind of blew up. Reviewed really well, and people really liked it. So, having I had some experience of Fire Emblem at this point, but it wasn't like something I was bound to get if it hadn't reviewed as well or it hadn't had such a big response. But given that it did, it's like, okay, well, clearly I'm going to get this. And it didn't disappoint. Really, really enjoyed it. I couldn't really speak to how much better or how different it was than a lot of the series because my experience was kind of limited to the GBA game that I played at that point, but it was just on its own merits very, very enjoyable. So I would go with a 9 on that one.
Lego City Undercover. The Chase Begins. Have you
Yeah,
ever seen this?
I've not played this one.
It runs at about 15 frames per second because they decided they wanted to use the fucking same open world as the Wii U game.
Yeah, my understanding was it didn't. It wasn't kind of Yeah, it's obviously, I mean, that you never would think it could just be like the Wii U games running on 3DS. It sounds like they've tried too hard to make it like that, in fact. But I think it reviewed okay at the same time, like it was still somewhat enjoyable. So I was thinking perhaps a 6 for that.
I mean, look, the draw distance meant that you could see one character on the screen, and other than yours, maybe. Like,
Maybe a maybe a 5.
yeah, I was gonna say 6 is a little generous. That thing did not run well on 3DS. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to
Hey,
Infinity.
Gates to Infinity.
So this one is all about circles, by which I literally mean the way the way that it would generate the seed for the random dungeons was it asked you to go around with the 3DS cameras and take a picture of a random circle in the world.
Wow, the Night Circle of Hell, perhaps.
Go find something round and take a picture of it.
So weird, so gimmicky. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, I don't. With some of these, I kind of feel like I recall them coming out and how they were received. This completely passed me by. I must say. Again, I suppose it's just, as I've mentioned, some of the other recurring things. I guess I just tuned it out at this phase. So I can't speak at all to its relative merits with the other Mystery Dungeon games. So
It's not very good. It's whatever.
where have we been on Mystery Dungeon before?
Oh, yeah. Where was the last Mystery Dungeon? That would have been, what, 2010? Because they put out a bunch on WiiWare that never got localized. So,
You're right.
no, that's the last Pokemon Ranger. Was it really 2009? Yeah, it was. You gave it a 5, and that released 4 years prior.
Mm,
And
mm.
then they come back, and then it's just whatever.
Yeah, maybe a four.
Okay. Um, so what I'm gonna do with this next one, which is Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, is I'm gonna give you the only thing that truly matters that this game gave us, which I don't know if you ever saw this. I'm putting it on the stream. Uh, is this
No,
is
yeah,
Donkey Kong jumping through a wall and scaring a poor kid to the point of
Look at
tears.
that. Oh, he's just absolutely shit him right up. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. I love
Someone
it's
thought
so
that was a good
not
idea.
it's so not Nintendo. It is so like so some one of James Paul marketing
Yeah.
characters has thought, oh yeah, well it's 3D, you should go bursting out with it. Oh, it's cool. I loved it. I
Yes.
absolutely loved
Anyways,
that.
that is all you need to say about Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D. What's the score?
Traumatized for life. I mean, look, it did have what the frame rate suffered, so
Yes,
that
it
was
did.
not great, and it does, it wasn't like a super detailed aesthetic, but it still suffers a bit getting down sampled in resolution, a little bit because so it doesn't come off as that clean. 3D though is quite good because it had like things going in and out of backgrounds, different layers and dynamic camera kind of movements and stuff. So there was some good stuff there. There was a few extra levels that I think was that Monster that
Yes.
helped port this
Yeah, this
Monster
is
game.
Monster's penultimate Nintendo project. They
And there
did
was a
this,
Xenoblade.
Xenoblade 3D, and then they went off and fucked off and did some NASCAR games for a while on other consoles, and then they just got acquired a week ago.
Yeah, I saw that on NWR, right? They did something
iRacing, yes.
wild stuff, right? Yeah, so it was a pretty good port, and also you didn't have the whole gesture to roll anymore.
Yeah, that was a lot better.
That was a lot better. So I think it stays an 8. I
Okay.
kind of giveth, taketh away, but it's still a pretty good game.
Animal Crossing New Leaf.
I didn't play this one, and I'm still a little bit like unsure why I didn't, because I played City Folk and enjoyed it. Or Let's Go to the City, I should say, in
Yes,
this
let's go
context.
to the city.
Let us go. I would have preferred to avoid the apostrophe myself, but anyway, the and but uh, they always, even having enjoyed that, kind of felt like, oh, it's probably a better fit for a portable thing. But then I just didn't get around to this. I really don't know why. I guess at a certain point, maybe if like thinking, oh well, maybe they'll do something on Wii U, and Wii U has off TV play. But of course, that never happened.
That never happened.
And it was never likely to happen that soon anyway. But yeah, I mean, New Leaf really blew up. Like
Yes.
relative to how popular the 3DS was, I felt like it had a really big impact. Um,
Oh, yes. This
so
is the anchor of 2013 for the 3DS.
so I mean, my feeling was I did play it, but based on how much having played the one before and the one after, and everything I understand, I
Yep,
think this could be worth a nine.
I
It's
agree.
it's quite a lot to give a game that I haven't played, but I feel like I've played enough around it to kind
Yeah.
of interpolate there.
Yeah, no, this game is fantastic. It's my favorite Animal Crossing. The other thing is, this is the game where Iwata had to make a public appearance and bow for a stupid number of seconds and apologize because they couldn't make cartridges fast enough, and also the download codes at retailers sold out,
Yeah, that's true.
and that he had to try and explain you can connect to the eShop and put your credit card in and get it.
You don't have to get
And Japan wasn't having that. Japan wasn't having that. They were like, no, give us more cartridges.
beautiful. That's,
Um,
oh wow.
Mario and Luigi Dream Team Brothers.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tough one, Scott. I do feel like it's like an alternate version. I've said this before of Bowser's Inside
Yep.
Story. Not quite as good overall, but there's still a lot to like. And I mean, I'd say the one area where it's definitively for me a step up is the soundtrack, which at this point, kind of with 3DS, there's much less sort of restrictions on sound quality,
Yep.
and so it shines. It's so good. This one, oh, the soundtrack. There's I forget exactly what it's called. Sort of like Somnom Labyrinth or
Yeah,
something.
something like that.
It's just
It turns
gorgeous.
out that Yoko Shimomura, really fucking amazing composer.
Well, she's always been an amazing composer. The music was always been good in this series, but it
Yes.
was. I don't know whether it's
I,
just the instrument quality thing
I
or whether there's something about this particular kind of set of tracks that just appeals to me. But I
I
just
think it's this. I think it's the sound quality, likely.
yeah, it makes sense, but there was
Yes.
something about it that really hit, that made a bigger impact than ever here. The what's it called, that the vampire thing that
Oh
is the
yes.
in the game. Like his theme is fantastic. Like it's just so rich and gorgeous. So yeah, like I said, it's kind of like a cover version, but that's not as good in most respects. But I think the soundtrack is going to save it from, because Inside Story was a 9, and it's whether you go down to a 7 or an 8. I think for me, the soundtrack is going to put it as an 8. It's a
Okay.
bit like Kid Icarus.
Yeah.
Maybe I weight these things a bit more highly than a lot of people would
Yes.
for soundtracks, but yeah, it was just like so gorgeous.
What about Inazuma 11-3, Lightning Bolt and Bomb Blast?
Uh,
I'm sure you
yeah,
have so many feelings about these.
he already said, I never did. He was kind of thinking of somewhat, didn't like completely ignore or whatever, but having some affinity for level 5 and soccer, but yeah, I
Um,
didn't.
I
So
look, they caught up to Japan to the point where they were able to put out the 2011 3DS games in 2013.
hmm. Well, where do we leave off with these? I think
Inazuma
just
11-2 you gave.
regular Inazuma level rather than the strikers, because I think that was more
Yeah, that was you gave that you gave Strikers a 5. Inazuma 11. All right, I'm using Control F to expedite this. What on earth? Why is it saying I can't find it? Okay, Inazuma 11-1 was 2011. Inazuma 11 Striker 2, you gave it a 7. It was the year
right.
before. I'm sorry, I'm just losing it. So, Inazuma 11-2, Firestorm and Blizzard, you gave a 7. They were on DS. The next year, Lightning Bolt and Bomb Blast on 3DS.
Yeah, so I got to wonder whether it's kind of diminishing returns at this point. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much there was like, some potential for it to get better, being, with the system with more, juice and for presentation and everything. But I'm leaning, I think a 6 for
Okay.
this.
Pokemon X and Y.
Yeah, didn't play this. We touched on this in
Yeah.
talking about pre-Pokemon games. I
This is the
didn't get
bad one.
Yeah, I didn't get in on this because and again, I was kind of up for it. I having played Soul Silver, and then so it was like, okay, black and white was a little too quick for me. But then it's like, oh, but by the time they get around to 3DS, it'll be just right. And then the reviews and the impressions, it just, yeah, it didn't seem like, especially when you're never that far away from the next Pokemon game. We didn't know at the time they weren't going to do a third version or
Yes.
another set of versions for this, but it could have been that, or like a remake with what we got eventually with Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, or indeed the next generation, which is eventually what I went with. So yeah, it definitely seemed like it just wasn't the one to go with, but I mean, I don't have the specifics to kind of say.
No, it was not great. These were just not great games.
The technical aspects, seemingly like it didn't, there was
Mm-mm.
some real kind of issues with the 3D, and they hadn't really come to grips with the
So,
system entirely yet.
yeah, the whole game is 2D except for battles, which you're allowed to watch in 3D. But when in the battles in 2D, they're at about 20 frames per second, and in 3D, they're at about 9. So you're like, why am I putting on the 3D?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. This was like the really unfortunate halfway step, but also in like modernizing Pokemon, where
Mm.
it's like we want 3D environments, but we're not going to design them in, or we want 3D movement, but we're not going to make 3D environments. We're gonna make like what is it? Like we're gonna I forget. I think they still had like all the HMs that you needed to collect and assign to all your Pokemon taking up moves that got removed in the next game. In yeah, they
Right. Yeah.
definitely had HMs. That you had that they removed in Sun and Moon. Like this is like the last original game that is like really just another one, and like the
Yeah.
the just another one here is it's on 3DS. Be grateful. It is widescreen.
Yeah, so the question is, how does it balance out? I mean, I don't know whether 6 is probably like the midpoint of what I'm thinking here.
Yeah, 6 or 7 at the highest.
I think we'll go with the 6.
Okay.
I mean, because Pokemon is such a rock solid formula, it's quite hard to fuck it up. I
Yes.
mean, I don't know how much credit you should get for not entirely fucking it up.
Exactly. Do we want to call it here or do we want to keep trying to go?
We'll keep going. We've got
Okay.
time.
Professor Layton and the Azran Legacy.
Yeah, David did. I thought about getting around to this because I got
This
quite.
is the most you need to have played everything before it game.
Yeah, that's the thing. I did actually, I think, read that, and so it was like, do I go
This,
back and play the other? Having
yeah,
played Miracle Mass, do I play 4 then 6, and then it just ended
yeah.
up doing nothing?
The story for this one, for whatever reason, is basically impenetrable if you have not played 4 and 5. Which, honestly, bold decision
Yeah,
for this
another
puzzle
bold decision.
for what the first game had been marketed as Touch Generations, I think in some territories. Like they really wanted this to be really mainstream, and then by the time you get to 6, they're like, "Fuck it, we're done. Scorch the earth."
With like, yes, total like fan closed loop.
Yes.
For the interesting.
Um,
Like,
what I will say is that to date, this is one of the 3DS games that I think has the best art direction. That
hmm,
like this is the Professor Layton team at their peak. Like they made a launch title. Then they learned how the 3DS really works.
sure.
And it's just a lot of like the stuff that looks best on the 3DS's screen, and I'm not talking about the 3D, and I'm just talking about the resolution. I'm just talking about like what colors pop the best on this physical screen.
Yeah.
Like shades of like really light blue and like um deep reds and stuff like that. Like all of that like really really shines. Like it's really
You don't, because a lot of the time with the launch stuff, you don't get that luxury necessarily of
yeah.
like
You don't
seeing
necessarily
everything.
have final screen.
Yeah.
So like it's a weird one, and it's not like other games are like Castlevania Circle of the Moon, but like this one feels like just like a weird. Like I really felt it when I was playing the game in 2013. I was like, why does this look so good? Like that was my prevailing thought. So like that's something for it. But yeah, it's also just like if you're not a hardcore fan, there's no reason for you to play this game.
I'm thinking probably a 7 on this. It's difficult without the having been able to play it to kind of go any differently than that. But
Yes.
I have a feeling just from because I mean even like by the time I played Miracle Mask, it was very quite well not very long, but it was quite some time after launch, so it wasn't going to
Yes.
impress on that basis. And yeah, it's still aesthetically, I felt like it was one of the strongest things in it. So the idea of it being refined, with that more experience of the system,
Oh
is
yeah,
quite appealing to me. But
definitely.
having not played it, I can't really go higher. I don't
The
think.
funniest thing about Azran Legacy is that it it is like one of the most batshit third acts because
Which is,
it's
I
trying to
quite
close out the series. So it's like instead of like just a one sentence throwaway this does that to try and explain everything that just happened, it's like big fucking action sequences and everything. And then the game ends, and this is a minor spoiler, even though it is literally the ending of the game. Um, the game ends with a recreation of the first cutscene of Curious Village. Of just here's Leighton and Luke in a car going to this village
all closing the loop.
because
Okay.
it's like all right, because those are the prequels, but you're going from the most high octane bullshit to like. Let's go to a calm village where
Yeah.
nothing will go wrong and
They're
nothing
like
will be weird.
they're like retiring or something.
Yes, it's like
God.
let's go to the least bullshit game. The first one, which is really funny to think about. That like the
Yeah.
sequel to that is Curious Village.
There should really be a lot more blasé in that game
Yes.
if it really did all happen.
Exactly. It's like and then you get there into Curious Village, it's like why is everyone acting weird? I've never seen
It's
this
so
before.
strange.
Why is everyone giving me puzzles? Like, bitch, you were just in. Alright. Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, I for the most part really really like this. Obviously it kind of started messing around with Zelda structure, by sort of having it be more up to player choice. With all like you could rent different items and attempt dungeons in different orders and stuff. But the one big downside that came with that was that, well, obviously, if a dungeon is a place where you may only have that particular item that is defined by the fact that it's the dungeon that you must have this particular item to get into, and you may not have any of the others, then predictably it becomes very
Yep.
one note as a result. There's like
Sure
every dungeon
does.
is about that. Of course, you do have the whole merging into the wall mechanic, which is present all the time basically.
And something I always forgot in the first, like, two dungeons that I had.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you need to get used to the fact that that is a something that the game knows that you have all the time, and it's one of the only other things you have other than that item.
Yeah.
Kind of, so once you get into that kind of groove of like, okay, well, it can only be this. It kind of it funnels the puzzles down a bit, and it's there's still some good stuff in there. There's still some kind of eureka moments to be had, like when you get wrap your head around. But it's just I coming off Skyward Sword, which obviously was not everyone's like cup of tea as far as the Zelda game goes. One of the things I did like about that was the fact there was more ambiguity about how the items would combine
Yep.
into how you solve puzzles, where of course with this it was very much less. But in many other respects, I really quite liked it. Especially, Link to the Past was my first Zelda, very special place in my sort of experience with Nintendo games in general, as well as the Zelda series. So to have this, sort of tribute to it was very nice, and certainly they'd struggle to have like a compelling overworld, so there was an argument for just using one you knew was already
Yes.
kind of just kind of do some new stuff with it, with the wall merge, and be done with it. So I think an 8 for that. I did very much like it.
Okay. Bravely Default.
Yeah, so I did play this. I did finish it properly. It's there's it's a mix of things. Again, in terms of there's some things that I very much like, and there's some things that I don't. It's tough to balance all those things, but I do have to say again, soundtrack is astonishingly good. I really,
Yes.
really like the soundtrack. It's
Um,
so good.
RFN disclaimer, you're about to talk to, if you're going to talk to James today, you're going to talk to James that just discovered, that just deeply for the first time looked into the Bravely Default mobile game,
Okay.
and discovered that it takes place 200 years later. Anyways, here's Adea from the first game as a young adult.
Oh,
She's 215 years old. Don't question it.
I take they took the Daya part of her name to think that she's a god. Like
Yeah. No. It's he's definitely gonna bring it up. So I just want you to know that has been his obsession today.
I'm good to. I've really heard from James in a while, so it's good to know that he's out there, focusing on the important stuff.
Yes.
I think I like I said, yeah. The famous thing about this is the repetition that kind of
Yes.
sucks if you want to see the real end of the game. And the real end of the game, I thought anyway, was pretty fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Which, in some ways, kind of redeems.
But it also makes it worse that you have to.
Yeah, exactly. So that it's kind of tough to reconcile those things. I love the job system. I hadn't really played an RPG because I'm like relatively limited RPG, so I hadn't played Final Fantasy V, and so for me it was like really like, oh, I love this. I love like actually the way you could kind of combine some of these skills and the party and everything. So I think I'm going to go with an 8 overall. You could probably make an argument for going lower based on some of the things that don't quite work, but the things that linger in the memory are kind of the art, kind of the art style with the towns, and
Yep.
like with the stereoscopic 3D, and the music and the battles being really great.
Yep.
The dungeons didn't look so hot. They look more like the 3D remakes on DS and
Yes.
Final Fantasy games, but other than that, it was very pretty.
Speaking of things that linger in the mind as well as art, Tokyo Crash Mobs.
Yeah, so this was Puzzle Loop or what?
Yeah, this is Action Loop or Magnetica.
Right, yeah. So yeah, and but now it's Tokyo Crash Mobs, and I think this may have been another one that Neil liked.
Oh, he likes this game.
Yeah.
So do I, because we're fucking weirdos.
So I think it was, and not just the two of you either. I mean, have some good reviews, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Do you not know what this game is off the top of your head? Like, because you're not talking about it in a way that makes it sound like you know what this fucking game is.
I don't know. So I'd not played the previous iterations of it, or
This is the game about Japanese women standing in line where you pick up Japanese women and throw them at other ones to make them disappear while you in between segments of you watching FMV cutscenes on the 3DS of women just spinning around or looking confused.
wow.
This is the most what the fuck did you do, Nintendo game?
It's such a strange way. It's just like, okay, well, we've had this game and we've done it, but like we need to put some sort of spin on it to make it more compelling, and that's what they came up with.
Yeah, it makes like no sense, but the fact that it exists is incredible. I strongly recommend you look up like 30 seconds of gameplay at some point, because this thing is like, so even the women that are the game pieces are just FMV. They're just wobbling back and forth like standees. Like, it's like, what the fuck am I playing? I have to buy this. So that's what this is. That's why when I said, like, does Neil like this? Yeah, so do I, because we're both fucking weirdos.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was. I mean, I knew it was like a sort of rebranding of an
Yes.
existing thing, but that it was quite that wacky.
Oh,
So
this feels like the WarioWare team made it and then said this is too weird. It's like, what the hell is this? And who at Nintendo greenlit this? Thank you.
So yeah, but I guess it's tough for me to say how that because the wacky stuff that could really land with me, but then sometimes it doesn't it? It's
I
and it's a bit
think that you
hard.
should. I think that you should give this game a try, like a legitimate purchase try.
Well,
It
it's
is
gonna be
so.
getting to that phase where I need to think about what's some stuff on 3DS that I
Yeah,
want to hit
this
before
should
because
be on your list if you want to
it's
see something fucking weird.
this exercise that we're going through will actually be useful in that regard because I mean we talked about it with Sakura Samurai or whatever
Yeah,
like it just like some of this stuff just leaves your head after a certain length of time if you didn't get around to it
yes.
relatively near to its launch. So I'm thinking maybe a 7 for
Yeah,
that.
that sounds right. It's either a 7, a 10, or a 1. Like, like there are 3 scores for this thing, and if you haven't played it, it's a 7. If you have, it's a 10 or a 1. Depends on if the weirdness was too much. Splash or Crash, which in the US was called Kersploosh.
Kasploosh, yeah, that rings a bell. Yeah, I'm not familiar with this bit either.
So this is
So
a game by the developers of Room in the Night Sky.
okay.
Uh, I know you like tell me more. This is a game about objects falling down water wells
But yeah,
where
yeah,
you control the object.
it is ringing a bell now. Yeah,
And it's
because
3D. It's 3D. It's like it's a behind the back ball game
mm,
where you just move the circle pad around to move around the inside of the well as like UFOs and donuts and shit try and prevent you from getting to the bottom, and then you want to splash at the end or go kersploosh instead of crashing.
I think I'll go with a 5 on that again.
Yeah,
It's
it's
tough.
fucking average to mediocre, but this, like, honestly, Tokyo Crash Mobs and Splash Crash, like, back to back is like a fucking. What the fuck are you doing, Nintendo? Like, who are you right now? Harmonite.
Yeah, I did get around to this. They seem like got some decent kind of
Yeah,
notices, but
Game Freak developed Rhythm Game.
yeah, it seemed like it was kind of in the good but not great
Yeah,
category.
it's fine.
That's all what I kind of took from it. So perhaps a 7 for that as well.
Okay. Mario and Donkey Kong Minis on the Move, which is the 6th of these fuckers to come out.
Now this one is this a little bit different?
Yes,
Is
this
this
is the
one that's got
one where on
more
like a 3
depth
by
to it?
3 grid, and
Yeah. So
you're moving track along.
it's kind of I don't know. It's tough to say with this one. It did seem like it was like a quantum leap in quality
No, it's
at all, but
fine.
equally it did at least add some variety because
Yes,
they
it
have
is.
got very similar.
It is not the same. We'll get to more of the sames.
Yeah, there's more. There is more of the
Um,
pre
yes,
the sort of staple.
it's been 2 years. They did shake things up. This is one of the last times they will ever shake things up. But they shook
Mm.
things up, and that's it. It was received as okay.
I think I'll go with a 6. I think it's a little bit lower than some of the other ones we've given, which is a harsh in a way because like it is doing something a bit different. But yeah, we'll probably be going lower still, maybe for some of the other ones that just
Yeah,
kind of revert back.
yeah. Can't wait until you get to uh the 2 games that came out on both 3DS and Wii U, which means that you're gonna rate those games twice.
Yeah,
So
true.
there's a lot of Mario and Donkey Kong. And then lastly for the year, Dylan's Rolling Western: The Last Ranger, which fixed a lot of people's issues with the first one. It was like a incremental-ish sequel. Like it was like the story took place later, but like the real reason this exists is because it was like, all right, what people don't like was people like didn't like long distances with nothing between it. People didn't like some of the aspects I think about like how like what would happen when you failed the battle, like what the penalties were. Like it was very much just like all right, so what people did like, so what people didn't like. We're gonna make a sequel that pleases all the fans, and people like this one a lot more.
Yep. So again, I've not played it. It's a little bit tough, but I think maybe we'll hit the 7 for this one. I think we was a 6 was
Yeah.
the last one, right?
Should have been. Yeah, it was 6.
Yeah. So we I think 7 sounds fair for this.
All right. 6.694444. So this puts us. Ooh, this is the highest score since 2003.
Yeah, well, it definitely has the benefit of not being too overstuffed and not having like weird, like barely game software that
Yes.
just fucking crashes the average.
Yeah, no, I think the best thing you can say about this year is that, like, for once, having a bunch of games did help the average because it offset the Pokemon Rumble U's that there were Animal Crossing New Leaf and Fire Emblem Awakening and Bravely Default and A Link Between Worlds and Mario Luigi Dream Team Brothers and Donkey Kong Country Return 3D. Like, there were just so many. Like, there were a bunch of
Top end
4s.
is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of 4s, but then there's also a bunch of 9s and 8s. So.
So the really, really strong top end with the 3DS hitting its stride, and then the odd thing from Wii U chipping
Yeah,
in.
I mean, you gave
Luigi and Pikmin.
You gave 4 9s on Wii U this year, which we'll see how far that continues.
Yeah, I don't know how many more 9s are there.
I don't know. There are 6 Wii U games next year. Look at this list of 3DS retail games.
Yeah, well,
and then look at the list of Wii U games.
It's ridiculous.
That when you lay it all out, you wonder why was the Wii U like this?
That's amazing.
Because 2 of those 6 Wii U games are Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2, which were packing together.
Even that is like.
Also, I do want to flag that Dr. Luigi came out in 2014 in Europe, which was outside of the year of Luigi.
Couldn't even get it in the right year.
That's when it became the fiscal year of Luigi.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's like even worse connotations. Like.
Yes. Look, he's a doctor and I guess also an accountant.
Yep.
All right.
That's what we got to look forward to next week.
Yes. So now I am also incrementing all of these Mario and Donkey Kong games because I missed one, which means that my counts have to get incremented. We're at game number 10 as of 2016.
Wow.
Was there an 11? I think there was. No, there wasn't, because we're at Switch at this point. Yeah, so there are 10 Mario and Donkey Kong games. You're talking in 2013 about, we're getting stale. There have been 6 of these. Oh, there's 4 more left. Alright, I'll call it there. Thank you so much for joining me. We got through
a pleasure.
Year and a half.
We managed to get through to the
yes.
to the end of the year at least.
And then we'll start with 2014 with Tropical Freeze and Mario Kart 8. So
yeah, well,
2014, you're looking at these Wii U games, you're like, well, at least they're all good.
Absolutely. That's
all right.
There's fun there to be had.
All right.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks.